Hey guys, welcome back to Fix It Friday, the weekly YouTube series where we talk about video game console mods, repairs, and restorations. And today, what I have for you guys is another arcade. This one is called Tutankham, and it was made by Konami and then released in the United States by Stern in 1982. And it's a really cool game. It's actually rather hard to find. It's a kind of maze crawler kind of game, and it's similar to something called the Tower of Druaga, which was inspiration for Legend of Zelda. So it's actually kind of a really interesting game, and I'm really sorry for the glare here. But you can kind of get an idea of what the problem is with this game. It has all sorts of graphic glitches, and I'll start up a game real quick. And hopefully you can kind of see this in the screen. So there's all sorts of graphic glitches. I mean, the controls work, the underlying game logic seems to be fine, but it's just not working right. So what I've done so far is I've just kind of taken the game out, and it's two boards that are sitting on top of each other, and so I kind of disconnected all that. Just put it onto some cardboard here just to keep it safe. And what I think might be the cause is this 4116 video RAM. So you see you have these 16 chips over here. That's the RAM for the video, and I've been reading online, and it looks like people see graphic glitches and lines on the screen when one or more of those chips is bad. So what I'm going to do now is start taking a look at those chips and verifying them and testing them, and when I find something that's bad, I'll swap it out and we'll see how things go. Okay guys, so we are back, and I wanted to provide just a quick update on what I've figured out so far. So the first thing I did was I took a look at all of the connections between these 4116 RAM chips just to make sure that there was nothing broken on the board with the traces. So let me show you what I did to kind of figure that out. So if you go into console5.com, you can find a pinout for the 4116 RAM chips, and you can use this as a guide to figure out how the chips are connected and what they're supposed to show you. So you can see that the chips actually take three different voltages. It takes 12 volts, plus 5 volts, and minus 5 volts, and those are on the four corners of the chip. The other lines are address lines, and those are all supposed to be linked together. There are also some that are linked by pairs, and I'll kind of go back to the board and show you what I mean. Yeah, so the voltage lines and the grounds should all be connected. So that means if you use a multimeter and you test on one pin, all the other guys should be connected. Same for the address lines, they should all be connected to each other. Some of them are connected pairwise like this, and then other lines are connected by rows. And so I used the multimeter, checked all that out, and everything looked good. So that was great. So then the next thing I did was I powered on the game again, and I tested out the voltages. And what I found was that I was getting 5 volts and I was getting 12 volts, but the minus 5 volt line was missing. And so that's obviously a problem because this game is not going to work without that minus 5 volts. So eventually what I did was I started at the power supply over here, and I tested that. I figured out that this is definitely getting minus 5 volts, so we know that's good. I followed it here onto the smaller daughter board, and minus 5 comes in over here on this pin, and I confirmed that it was there. And I had to do a little bit more snooping around, but eventually that minus 5 comes over on this connector, and you see over here there's this trace going right up here to this capacitor. You can very clearly see that there is some damage. So somebody already replaced the caps on this board, but nevertheless, the original caps definitely leaked and corroded, and what I think happened is that this trace is cut because at the connector I get minus 5, but anywhere downstream from there I get nothing. So what I'm going to do now is remove this cap. I'm going to just test out my theory and see if I have, continuity. And if I don't, I'm going to run a patch wire and see if I can restore the minus 5 volts and see if I can get the game working that way. Okay, so I pulled out that cap and I did some tests, and I confirmed that the minus 5 volt line does appear to be severed. So to restore it, what I did was I came on the other side of the board. This is the solder side instead of the part side, and I ran a wire from where the minus 5 is definitely coming in to the negative leg of that capacitor, because that's the severed connection. And then from there, all these other connections downstream seem to be intact. Here's the RAM chips again. This is the underside, and someone has already done work on this board. They've replaced 4 of the chips, and it looks like they did some bodge wires, which are fine. They seem to be working. So I did that. all the 5-volt connections now seem to work from here all the way to here. So now we're gonna turn on this game and see if that takes care of the problem. Okay, so we are back with Tutankham, and I know the glare is bad, but hopefully you guys can see that that did the job. So we now have a 100% fully functional game because now the -5 is restored. All those RAM chips thankfully were good, and that was thankfully it. It was just one simple little thing to fix. So I'm gonna start up the game again and show you guys how it looks. So I'm not gonna do it justice because I'm playing with one hand here, but basically you just kind of go through this maze and you have 2 joysticks. You have one for directions, one for firing. You also have this flash button, and if you hit that, you kill all the enemies on the screen, but you can only do that 1 time per board. And then, yeah, so I'm gonna do this, but it's gonna end very badly because I don't have the 2 hands for it. But it's a fun game. Like I said, it's a lot like Tower of Druaga if you're used to that game or if you know about it. And it does have this kind of Legend of Zelda dungeon sort of feel to it. So yeah, you have a chance to try out this game yourself because this game is at the Cradle of Aviation Museum. And we're in the middle of doing arcade repairs and restorations, and all of this stuff is going to be ready for you to enjoy on February 15th. And you can also keep an eye out for these games at a whole bunch of other upcoming events like the 80s Arcade Nights and the Long Island Tabletop Gaming Expo and the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.